The transformation model looks at the shift required to get from the current circumstance that the project is having to address to the future outcome-driven circumstance the project should produce. So it's a great model to use in group discussions as well. But the first step is to get into the current circumstance, and this is a matter of listing either in dot point form or descriptive form the situation right now. And that should really capture the key frustrations and fears and the problem that needs to be addressed, not in terms of how it needs to be addressed, but specifically in terms of the situation that that problem causes and that people are having to deal with. Step two is to identify the future state, once again, either in dot point form or descriptive terms, that are outcome driven results from the project. So once again, not how-tos or down into too level of detail, but rather the high-level description of what has changed and now what the new situation looks like. And that then bookends the transformation. Now, the transformation is a piece that is often missed in project thinking, but it's really critical. The transformation should describe the type of project that this is. So a project could be an R&D project, a training and development project, a research project, an implementation project, a consultation project, and so on. So having described the project, that should be written on the transformation line. So it might be research, develop, and then deliver a training program or something like that. Now, what we tend to find is if there's even 2 or 3 words on that transformation line, the project scope ends up being a bit too large for it to be a short, sharp project that you can complete in a really swift time frame so that we keep seeing progress all the way through. And my first thought would be that I would probably break this into 3 separate projects, scope each of those, and then manage them as a suite of projects. Now, having identified the transformation, the next step is to identify the major milestones. Once again, in dot point or descriptive terms, the milestones should describe the major outcomes that need to be delivered over a period of time to deliver on the project. Now, I understand that projects are not linear. However, this is a top-down flowchart model, and it's a forced level of thinking to really get as much sequential thinking in place as we possibly can. And of course, the output of one step, the output of one milestone becomes the input of another milestone. Having identified the top line, and we would normally recommend between 4 and 7 major milestone steps and no more. Having identified the top line, there's a test to apply. The first test is to cover up one of the milestones and simply ask the question, if that milestone did not exist, would we still deliver the project? And if the answer is no, then it is definitely a milestone at that level. If the answer is yes, then that is not really a milestone. It's an action or activity below a milestone somewhere else in the transformation diagram. The second test is to step back from the milestone and look at it and actually work through the process and say, well, if each of these milestones were successfully delivered, would we get the future outcome? And if the answer is no, then there is something missing at that level. And if the answer is yes, then we have effectively covered everything. Now, only at that point would we take those milestones and below each of them drop them into descriptive activities that are required to address that milestone. And each of these activities becomes a mini plan for each of those milestones, if you like. It's also sometimes useful to apply the project triangle of time, money, and outcome to each of the milestones to check the priorities, which is what's most important for each milestone: time, the resources, or the outcome. And it isn't necessarily always the same for every milestone. That top-down flowchart or the transformation diagram, if it is turned on its side, basically becomes the foundation for a Gantt chart. It's a really powerful tool, great for group work, great for individual thinking, even on small projects, certainly on large projects. So I'd really encourage you to try and use it, become skilled with it, and have fun with it.